Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday evening to you all. I hope you guys are doing awesome out there tonight. You had yourselves a wonderful Sunday, and I hope everyone has had a great weekend out there as it comes to an end. About to head off into the week. Here to bring you the latest on what's going on with Major Hurricane Beryl. Currently, it's a 130 mile per hour Category 4 hurricane, and I just want to reiterate that just because it seems like every time I drop a video, this thing goes up another 5 to 15 miles per hour right after I drop it from an update from the National Hurricane Center. So just know I'm making this video as of around, 6:20 p.m. Eastern Time. This is expected to strengthen to a 145 mile per hour Category 4 hurricane. So it's expected to go up another 15 miles per hour sometime tonight into tomorrow morning. So of course, we're going to give you all the latest information that we have. We're going to go over what's going on with it right now. We'll talk about the latest from the National Hurricane Center. We'll zoom into it also, show these areas that it's going to impact just over the next 12 to 18 hours, which is the Windward Islands. Okay, and then it's going to get into the Caribbean, and we got to figure out who it's going to impact after that. We'll go over some model guidance and all that good stuff. We'll get very detailed with you folks. And then of course, we're going to have that portion of the video where we're going to geek out on you and really talk about why the environment has been so favorable for the last few days and why it will continue to be pretty favorable over the next couple days for Hurricane Beryl. We'll also discuss a little bit about a couple other systems. One is basically on its last lifeline, but it did make it to a tropical depression in the Bay of Campeche, and it could become our next tropical storm, which would be Tropical Storm Chris, here in the next 6 to 12 hours. So we will speak a little bit on that. We'll talk about the area behind Beryl, and then we'll be done. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And of course, if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. We were praying for you folks in the Windward Islands out there tonight. This is getting close to Barbados now, and just the Windward Islands in general. We are certainly praying for you folks. We are, and wishing you guys the best as this is heading into your region overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. So let's give you the latest. So this is Hurricane Beryl. Okay, it is doing pretty well. It did have a substantial uptick in strength this morning, but I would say since about lunchtime to about right now, it's pretty much sustained itself. There is hurricane hunters going out in this system right now. We'll see if the millibars have dropped, what the wind speeds are around that eye wall, which is really an indicator on how strong this system is. But we certainly are going to get some sort of strengthening based off what the National Hurricane Center is saying overnight tonight. It could go up another 15 miles per hour. So if you notice from this morning's video, we're not seeing those whites, those pinks or anything like that, indicating those really cold cloud tops. We're just seeing more so the reds, the blacks, maybe some whites into here. And that is still cold cloud tops, but not as cold as what we were seeing when we made a video this morning. Now, that doesn't mean that it's weaker than it was this morning, because remember when we talked about this in this morning's video, it was a Category 2 100 mile per hour hurricane. This is a 130 mile per hour hurricane now, 30 miles per hour stronger. But the one main difference you are seeing is a cleared out eye. You don't need to be a weather geek to know what a hurricane looks like on satellite, right? You can see the cleared out eye. You can see the eye wall circulating around this. And this has a pretty strong inner core to it. The eye wall being, of course, around the eye, outer eye wall. And then you start to get into the outer bands of this system. Okay, Barbados is right here, guys. Tobago, Trinidad, and then you get into the Windward Islands. I mean, this thing is cruising at about 20 miles per hour. Okay, so it's moving in quick. It's not one of those hurricanes moving at like 5 or 15 miles per hour. One thing we are noticing, and I think why it's just kind of maintained itself, is if you notice right here, how you just get the whites in here, that you can tell that some of that convection is getting ate away over here. I think that this is still dealing with some pesky easterly shear that I think has ultimately prevented this from further strengthening this afternoon to this evening. But we are still expecting this to be in a very favorable atmosphere, like I said, over the next 6 to 12 hours. So this is a close look at it, doing very well. Here's a look at water vapor loop, and we're going to stick here for a second. This indicates how much moisture is in the atmosphere, and of course, these whiter colors, a lot of moisture in the atmosphere because we are dealing with a hurricane. So you got all these storms circulating in that cyclonic spin that is Hurricane Beryl. But let's see if this is going to work for us, and it is, so we're good there. If we draw on this, you notice these clouds up here, which I know this is water vapor loop, but this is, still moisture in the atmosphere. You see how they're dispersing like this? This is going like that. And then right here, it's kind of going like this. This is going like that. And then this is dispersing out like this. So this has a nice upper wind pattern to it. It's very favorable. It's breathing very well. Air is getting dispersed in the upper levels of the atmosphere out away from this system. Okay, and of course, this is the winds in the upper levels of the atmosphere are going like this, but the actual hurricane has the cyclonic spin to it, so it's spinning like this, right? But in those upper levels, winds are getting pushed out. This is allowing for more air to rise, then that gets pushed out. Then more air rises, then that gets pushed out. This allows for the continuation of just firing convection, which is shower and storm activity. So this is why it's at minimum maintaining itself out here, because it's still in an excellent upper wind pattern, even though it's still getting affected a little bit by some easterly shear right into here, into the system. You can tell it's eating up a little bit of its moisture, its convection in the upper levels, not really in the mid to low levels, but really in the upper levels. It's getting affected by some shear for sure. So nice, excellent anticyclonic flow over this system being dispersed out. And typically when we have that, we have an excellent upper wind pattern with it. So let's move past this, get all this off your screen, and continue to move forward. Very healthy hurricane, maintaining itself out here, expected to strengthen. As you can tell, the Windward Islands here, you're starting to get some of those bands are starting to move into Barbados now. So the latest information we have, this is per the 5 p.m. update. Like I said, this is around, it's around 6:30 Eastern time right now, p.m. So this is where the system is, and this is a great site, guys. I'm going to zoom out with this. This is like Google Maps, but mixed with the tropics. I mean, it's easy to use. It's called Zoom Earth. It is phenomenal. I want to be honest with you guys. Most of the information I show you guys with the tropics is available to the public for free. It's just trying to figure out how to use it. That's the tricky part. It's even still tricky to me sometimes. So this is obviously Hurricane Beryl, doing well, just like we just talked about. Barbados, hurricane warning, okay? Tobago, hurricane warning. Trinidad, okay, you got tropical storm watches. Guys, if I butcher any of your island names out here in the Windward Islands, I do apologize. If you're a regular viewer, hopefully it'll be funny. You could virtually tell others, hey, Mitch is not the best with punctuation. I try my best. No hard feelings. I hope you guys don't take it. But Grenada here, okay, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I think is how you pronounce it, which is all these islands in between Grenada and St. Vincent. All these islands, this is the trouble zone right in here. All these little islands here. Here's Beryl right here, and Port Elizabeth. These islands between Grenada and St. Vincent. This is the trouble zone. This is where the core of this hurricane is going to go through. This is actually trended a little bit south. That's why you do have those hurricane warnings in Tobago now. Okay? Because you guys are going to get hit pretty good by, at minimum, the outer eye wall of this system, the southern flank of this hurricane, which is right here, guys. I mean, and like I said, this is moving pretty quick. So hurricane warnings across this entire area, it's going to go right here. Okay, it could ooze a little bit south, could ooze a little bit further north, but the smaller islands in between here in the Windward Islands, these are going to be the ones we got to watch out for. Forecast to be a 145 mile per hour hurricane by tonight. So it's forecast to strengthen another 15 miles per hour. We got to see what this thing, is looking like as the hurricane hunters get into this. Okay, and I'm going to try to remind myself in the middle of doing this video to kind of go and look at that on the fly somewhere in this video. Okay, 140 mile per hour Category 4 hurricane still once it sneaks into the eastern Caribbean. Let's go on and zoom out. Martinique, you got tropical storm warnings. Dominica, tropical storm watches. Guadeloupe, you don't have anything because it's so far south. Very compact hurricane. It looks very large, but the hurricane force conditions are really compact, really close to the actual center of circulation. By the time it gets deep into the eastern Caribbean, still a Category 3 major hurricane. Puerto Rico, way up here. Virgin, British Islands, way up here. You don't have to worry about nothing up here, but maybe some big time swells. It is close enough to the southern shoreline of Hispaniola to put up tropical storm watches. So we are watching that, but it will be, by 2 p.m. Tuesday, 120 mile per hour Category 3 hurricane. By the time we get into Tuesday night, 2 a.m. Wednesday, still a Category 3 hurricane. And then we got to watch out for our fine folks here in Jamaica. Jamaica, notice you are in the cone. So the center of the storm could go right over Jamaica. It could go south. Most model guidance likes the idea of this going south, but be close enough where I think they're going to issue maybe tropical storm watches by tomorrow morning, maybe tonight. Hurricane watches might get issued sometime late tomorrow. This is going to get close, and it's saying this is going to be a dangerous Category 2 hurricane just south of you guys sometime Wednesday. Wednesday looks to be the big day for you guys. Okay, Cayman Islands, you guys are in the cone, but it looks like it's going to be south. Cuba way up here. And then what is this? There's a lot of chatter about this in the U.S. What is this going to do if it sneaks into the Gulf of Mexico? Well, the cone only extends out to about Friday afternoon. But it has this as a Category 2 hurricane, 100-mile-per-hour storm, this coming Thursday afternoon, and eventually Thursday afternoon into Friday makes landfall in the Yucatan Peninsula. But this cone is going to tweak some. We don't know what's going to happen once this sneaks into the Gulf of Mexico. If it does, or the Bay of Campeche, it might cruise on into Central America, Guatemala, Nicaragua. I mean, it might do something like that. Okay, it might not even get up here. Okay, but we got to figure all that out once this gets into the Eastern Caribbean. Okay, because this is going to cruise across the Caribbean pretty fast, pretty quick rate. Okay, so I see this in the comments all the time. A lot of people say, Mitch, is it going to hit Florida? Mitch, is it going to hit Texas? Mitch, is it going to hit Louisiana? And it's always just an abrupt question. Guys, if I knew that kind of information, I'd be a millionaire because I could predict the future. We just don't know that kind of stuff. I think people just misunderstand what people like me do, what people like meteorologists do with the weather. They just literally think that you're going to know exactly where a hurricane is going to hit 7 to 8 days out. You guys know that you guys should know that we don't know that. Especially a lot of the people out there to say, meteorologist is the only job where you can be right half the time, 50% of the time and still keep your job. I hear that all the time, and I just have to keep my mouth shut. Don't say anything, Mitch. Don't say anything. But anyways, as of right now, guys, this is a 960 millibar central pressure storm. Okay. The tropical storm force wind gusts extend out in this orange area, but the hurricane force conditions is really confined in that inner eye wall. I mean, you can barely see it. Hurricane warnings up, as you can tell. And this is just a traditional look from the National Hurricane Center, the cone, and what we're seeing here. And I do want to do this on the fly. Let's see if we can try to catch the hurricane hunters. Well, look, okay, they've flown into the storm, so we're actually catching it now. They're in the storm right now. This is awesome. So let's see what they're seeing here. Looks like they made a pass. Yes, so now we have a central pressure of 955. So they might actually bump this up. They flew through the middle of the storm. This has dropped another 5 millibars since their last pass. So now this is a 955 millibar storm. I'm glad that I thought to go back to that because that's important information. And this is really cool. This is all available in Tropical Tidbits, guys. It looks like this. They just went through the kind of northwest portion of the storm. And what they're going to probably end up doing is kind of pulling, out and then kind of going back in. What they do here, especially in situations like this will come out and it'll probably do like this, and then it'll go right back through it, and then it'll come back and go right back in. Or he might go, I don't know, he might go like this way and go this way. But anyways, the hurricane hunters are going to fly through this a couple times, but they are finding in the northwest quadrant of the eye wall here, okay, they are finding, it looks like, somewhere between 95 and 115 knot winds. So, if you equate that to miles per hour, it looks like that, they are certainly finding still Category 4 major hurricane type winds in this system, 130, 135 mile per hour winds, okay? And the pressure is down, which means it's strengthened since the last pass. Okay, so I'm glad I was able to show you that. That excites me. So the hurricane hunters are in this right now. So the next thing we're going to show you guys is just model guidance. And guys, I don't want you to pay attention to the strength of this system. I want you to just pay attention to the path. I will mention the strength of it, the millibar number, but the GFS and the European, they got this all wrong. I'm just showing you this because more so just the path of this system, right? So we'll start off this evening, which is right now. The GFS is initializing this, guys, is a 982 millibar system. This is a 955 millibar system. So, yeah, that's over 25 millibars off, right? So this is going to continue, make landfall in the Windward Islands. What is it going to do? Once it gets into the Eastern Caribbean, we get into Tuesday morning, still a hurricane. Like I said, just focus on the path. I do want to get focused once it gets to the Central Caribbean because I do think it's going to weaken for a number of reasons. Okay, this does get Wednesday morning. Okay, starts to get very close to Jamaica. The GFS is trying to say this is only a 990 millibar storm. High-end tropical storm, Category 1 hurricane. I think it'll be stronger than that. GFS pulls this impacts Jamaica. In fact, we should have thought about this on the fly here. Can't get it right every time. We actually have the latest GFS, which ain't much different, okay? Looks like it's a tick further north. Gets it past Jamaica. And this is when all eyes kind of start to look at the Western Caribbean. And then, we start to get into the Gulf of Mexico. This thing looks like it weakened substantially. It's 1,000 millibar low pressure storm. Cruises into the Yucatan. Is that going to completely disrupt this storm? We're not sure. Gets back into the southwest Gulf of Mexico. Is it going to try to re-strengthen? Not really. Not really. It kind of goes into South Texas as just a kind of a tropical disturbance. And of course, we are watching the system behind it, but guidance has really substantially dropped off on this system behind it. Okay, I don't even know if this is going to end up taking a name at this point. Okay, it could be Chris, it could be Debbie. There's a chance that by the time I'm done with this video, what's Tropical Depression 3 could take the name Chris right the last second before making landfall in Mexico. But that's the latest GFS. Okay, let's take a look. I want to take a look at the latest Icon model. Okay, and I know this isn't a great model. Okay, and we'll back it up here. This hits, for example, Jamaica sometime Wednesday as an all-out hurricane. I mean, it goes right over Jamaica Wednesday. Okay, then it proceeds to strengthen this in the Western Caribbean just a little bit. Makes landfall in the Yucatan Peninsula, gets off the Yucatan Peninsula, and then proceeds to begin to strengthen this again to the southern Gulf of Mexico this coming Friday. Okay, totally different scenario than the GFS, right? Now, what about the European model? Okay, once again, ignore the strength. Could you believe that the European is initializing this storm as like a 990 millibar low pressure when it's 955? Just incredible, right? But I will tell you that the European is strengthening this system in the eastern and even central Caribbean, okay? Which is something to pay attention to. And it actually sweeps Jamaica, okay, as a all-out Category 2, Category 3 hurricane, nudges it just south. Once again, Wednesday afternoon. Okay, and then this gets into the Western Caribbean. What is it going to do? Is it going to get affected by shear? Is it going to weaken? Well, it kind of bounces back and forth. The models are everywhere. We're getting into Thursday and Friday. It makes landfall in the Yucatan Peninsula as a Category 1 tropical storm. And then it gets back into the Bay of Campeche. It doesn't strengthen much and eventually makes landfall into Mexico. Again, it seems like the shorelines of Mexico right here is a hot spot for these tropical systems so far. If that was... if that ends up being what it ends up doing. So the European ensemble guidance with this, kind of this line, this black line in between everything, that is the ensemble mean of all these members. So, in general, it likes this cruising across the Caribbean. So many of these members have really, really hit Jamaica hard, but, the ensemble mean, kind of the mean of all these members goes south of Jamaica. And then it looks like it's going... I really think this is going to begin to really go west-northwest because it's trying to sniff out a weakness in the ridge. And then it's going to start to go once again east to west because a ridge is going to build over the southeast. And then it does that, impacts areas of Mexico, the Yucatan Peninsula, Central America. And then it's going to try to find a weakness at the last second, and it might try to crawl north and affect areas of Texas and Louisiana. There's a lot of chatter about that. And that's a scenario we really got to figure out. So, I've been showing the HFA model a lot with, these hurricane models. I'm actually going to show you guys the HMON model, HMON, because I think it's initializing the best, and I honestly think it's done one of the best. I think it's done the best out of all the hurricane models. So, it's actually got this initializing as a 957 millibar storm. It's only 2 millibars off. That's the best out of all the models I checked before when I was analyzing all the data before I made this video. Okay. So it does indicate what the National Hurricane Center shows, has this number dropping, okay, all the way to a sub 950 millibar storm. So, this would back up the fact that this is going to be a higher end Category 4 hurricane, 145 mile per hour storm potentially. All right, Barbados right here. Guys, this is like 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. Barbados, you're getting some nasty outer bands. Okay, there's Tobago down here. All right, here's the Windward Islands. Here it comes. Still 950-ish millibar storm based off the HMON model. Okay, this is tomorrow morning. Okay, and here is that eye wall. Everything in here, guys, Probably need to draw in a better color here. Everything in here, I hate to use this word, but devastation is possible. That is your core of the storm. I've chased hurricanes, guys. I can't say that I've chased as many as some, but when I tell you there is a substantial difference between, say, if you're right here, then right here, I mean it. People that, lived out Hurricane Michael and some, Katrina, some of these bigger hurricanes will tell you that. There is a substantial difference between the inner eye wall and the outer eye wall and the outer bands. Okay, this is a nasty outer band right here, for example, which they can pack punches, guys. I mean, you're going to continue to get hit by outer bands, in Barbados, pretty much all day, I would think, just about Monday. Okay, and we get all this off your screen here, and not to leave my friends hanging down here in like Tobago and stuff like that. You guys, I think, will get impacts, hurricane force conditions, but I think the worst is going to be just to your north. Trinidad, definitely just getting outer bands. That's why you only got, tropical storm watches, I believe. Hurricane warnings up for Tobago, though. Okay, but once again, we get this in motion. It's going to impact somewhere between Grenada and St. Vincent, all the islands in between. That is where it's going to hit hard. But the latest run gets Grenada inside that southern eye wall sometime tomorrow morning. And then this gets into the Eastern Caribbean. What is it going to do after that? Look, very healthy looking hurricane, kind of sustains itself, right? We get into Tuesday morning. It's just still around the same strength. Okay, category 3 or 4 hurricane. You can see the southern shoreline of Hispaniola up here, but it's well south. Well south. And then here comes our friends here in Jamaica, Wednesday morning, starting to get hit by these outer bands. Based off this model run, this is still a 972 millibar category 2 or 3 hurricane. Okay, hitting you guys with some nasty outer bands. This particular run, of course, misses you pretty good to the south. But you look at some of these other runs, guys. You look at let's just take a look at another run here. Hopefully it doesn't. Okay, this is much weaker, but takes it right into Jamaica. Okay, it's like just a sub 990 millibar storm as it hits eastern Jamaica. Weaker storm, but makes a direct landfall. Okay, and then you look at, I don't know, you just look at the HFB model. What does it show? Okay, I knew it was going to do that. Gonna have to go all the way to it now. What does it show? It misses it well south like the HMON model. Okay, so I know I got a lot of viewers from Jamaica, and I really appreciate y'all very much, by the way. You're always very kind, just like my friends in Canada. Canada's always very nice too, and I definitely appreciate all the views from like Barbados and the Windward Islands. Thank y'all for trusting me, just trusting some random guy in South Carolina in the U.S. But we kind of go back to what is this? The HMON model. What's this thing going to do once it, is done with Jamaica? There's the Cayman Islands getting some impacts. This thing looks really messy once it gets in the Western Caribbean, but eventually does make landfall as some sort of system in the Yucatan Peninsula. Okay? But the worrisome thing is you got models like the H-Wharf model, okay, that slips the gap. Okay? I wouldn't rule any of this out. There's Western Cuba. Okay, this thing is a sub 950 millibar major hurricane, goes between the Yucatan Peninsula and Cuba, and then slips into the southern Gulf of Mexico, basically unharmed this coming Friday. You don't want this to happen. Okay, that would bring devastation, to somebody, between Cuba and the Yucatan. So we got to watch this. We're not even close to out the woods yet. Okay, with any bear. It hasn't really even started. It's only just been affecting the fish out in the ocean at this point. I just want to give you guys an idea of how compact this hurricane is. There's Barbados, there's Tobago. All right, there is your winds. Right up against the core of this, these are winds at 100, like I said, 100 to 115 knots. Your winds are pushing 110, 120, 125, 130 miles per hour in the inner core of this eye wall. But you notice in like the greens, that's like tropical storm force conditions. And those barely even get up. Now, you're going to get in some of those bands, but you're not even seeing that much in Barbados or even down to Tobago. You're really close in Tobago based off this specific run. Of course, we don't know if this is exactly what's going to happen. This system's right at your doorstep now. So it's just kind of watching it now. But it really slips the gap between Barbados and Tobago. And then it gets I mean, it hits the northern end of Grenada really hard. Okay, and then of course this starts to get into the Eastern Caribbean. But whoever gets impacted by this area in purple, pink right here, like I said, I don't like to use words like this, but devastation will be occurring tomorrow for these little islands. So I'm praying for you guys. I really am. And just, taking a look at the GFS and kind of where it takes it. This is in miles per hour, but, this is predicted wind gusts, going for 103 in those areas right in here. I mean, that's 110, 115 mile per hour wind gust. But notice how narrow the swath is. And unfortunately, I can't make this graphic go any further south and look at Trinidad and Tobago or anything like that. But, you only got like a 55 mile per hour wind gust in Barbados. But you get in between Grenada and St. Vincent, those smaller islands, the Grenadines, yeah, I mean, this looks like this is where the meat of the system's going to go, guys. So, you look at the percent chance to see tropical storm force winds, and I wish they had one for hurricane force winds, but obviously 100% chance here in the Windward Islands, but you're steadily increasing for areas of Jamaica. You're up to a 70 to 80, even 90% chance on the southern shores of Jamaica, and then the chance of tropical storm force winds are going to be there also for, you're already starting to see in the Yucatan Peninsula, for example. They're starting to increase because this is moving up in time now because the system's on the way, right? And then here's the timeline of winds. You'll start to see impacts from this Tuesday night in Jamaica. Obviously, the impacts from the way for the Windward Islands. And, this is a fast-moving system, guys. I mean, it's going to come up on you fast. I was thinking about today. It seemed like we were talking about for a few days. And I'm like, man, we still got a couple days where it gets to the Windward Islands. And then it dawned on me. Like, I think last night, it's like, dang, no, this is going to hit these guys tomorrow night into Monday morning. I guess, we're so used to these slow crawler hurricanes, and this one's just booking it. That's good and bad news. Bad news because you just don't have enough time to prepare. But, good news because it's in and out. Okay, this is how much rain in inches. Locally up to over 10 inches of rain is possible in the Grenadines, St. Vincent, Grenada. Barbados could get a good bit. And this is kind of more of an uncertainty up here. Okay, so, talking about the environmental background, we've spent a lot of time on this in the last several days in these videos. And, I'm just initializing this right now. And of course, this is initializing this hurricane about almost 20 millibars weaker. I mean, stronger. Yes, weaker. I said it right the first time, weaker than what it really is. So, but the only thing we'll look at here is the upper wind pattern. So these are winds 35, 40,000 feet up in the air, guys. So you see these arrows, once again, and we talked about this in the middle of the video. I'm sorry, in the beginning of the video, which was a real-time example of it. Here's kind of a model example of it. You see these streamlines here? These are winds in the upper levels of the atmosphere going this way. And then they're kind of going up here around this upper ridge, kind of going back down here. And then the upper levels of the atmosphere, this is actually coming down here and bringing a little bit of shear in the upper levels of the system, which I showed you at the beginning. And then the streamlines from are going like this. They're kind of coming out like this and like this. So for the majority of the storm in the upper levels of the atmosphere, it's very favorable. You got a nice divergence flow, a nice flow aloft, a nice outflow from this system. If you hear any loud noises in the background, we're getting our first rain in 20 days here at my house, and it is storming pretty good right now, and it's making me smile. Love a good storm in the summer. I don't know if anybody who doesn't, unless you got the storm anxiety, which I certainly understand. But enough of all that. Anyways, back to the weather. But if you hear any loud booms, that's what it is. We're getting a storm here in central South Carolina. But hopefully the power don't go out. That would be terrible. But storm is dealing with some easterly shear, kind of east-northeast shear. That is affecting this system with a nice outflow from the actual low pressure. So this system is basically ventilating very well. So air is getting dispersed out away from the system in the upper levels. It's allowing for more air to rise. That gets pushed away, allows for more air to rise. That gets pushed away. So you get the continuation of development of shower and storm activity, which is why this thing's thriving out here and living its best life. Okay, now we keep moving this forward. I think it'll continue to have a really good environment. It'll still deal with a little bit of dry air, a little bit of shear, but I think it'll still do pretty good in the Eastern Caribbean. It's once it gets right here, two things happen. It's probably going to interact a little bit, unless it stays well south, and it could. It could interact a little bit. The cyclonic flow of the system could kind of get bumped up with some of this higher terrain of Hispaniola, especially if it gets this close. Okay? The actual flow of the system is going to get kind of entangled with the higher elevations of Hispaniola. Okay, but it might not. either way, I do think you're going to get in kind of more so the mid-levels, not necessarily the upper levels, but sort of the mid-levels. And you can't see it because it looks like these lines are kind of going up like this, right? And you're like, well, that's not, you know, doesn't look like bad shear. But if you look at the mid-levels, which I'm about to show you, shear is going to be coming in from this direction. This is going to affect this storm somewhat in the Central Caribbean. How much? We're just not quite sure. Okay, and you can see it best like this. Great environment, but you see these streamlines in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. You notice how they're going a different direction now. They're kind of going like this. Okay, this is what we call a wave breaker, a little bit of a tut interaction, and just unfavorable trade winds basically affecting this storm. So you're getting some like southwesterly shear that's going to begin to weaken this storm, and I think that's ultimately why you see that number kind of rise, which means we have a weakening of the system. When the number rises, weakening. When it drops, strengthening. How much is it going to affect it? Well, between land interaction with Jamaica potentially and then the shear, it could weaken it substantially. But models significantly differ with this. Okay? But I do think there's going to be a period once it gets back into the Western Caribbean where the shear most likely will relax. We just don't quite know though. But speaking of the dry air and the moist air, this is doing pretty well. Right now, pretty moist environment, even with a little bit of shear, getting a little bit of dry air mixed in with that kind of the eastern side. But a very moist environment continues. And then with that kind of westerly shear right here, there's those arrows, shears impacting here, a little bit of dry air starting to eat away right here, that moisture on the western side of the system. You don't see as much as that deep green color right here. It's because shear is eating away, allowing for dry air to come into the western side of this system. So that's why I think it'll weaken right into here. Okay, and we just got to watch what happens after that. As far as the steering current to this, some people have wondered, you know, what's preventing this from turning into the Gulf of Mexico, right? And I will answer this really quick. A lot of people I've seen in the comments, why isn't the Saharan dust affecting the system? And it's exactly what I just explained. The upper wind pattern is basically allowing for a favorable environment for the moisture just to cocoon this system. So none of that dry air is affecting the system much. Not near as much as it needs to really disrupt the system. So that's a quick reason why there. But we've explained that multiple times. Hopefully you guys understand that. But this indicates heights in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. So the reds, that's just persistent ridging. You got the Bermuda High, up here. It's the strongest up here in the North Atlantic, kind of way up here. I'll just do an arrow. And then we got some stronger ridging right into here. So you see these like lines right here. The flow around the bottom edge of this ridge is going like this. Okay? There is a weakness that's going to try to show up between the stronger ridge of the Bermuda High, North Atlantic Ridge, okay, and then the ridge over the southern tier of the country, okay? And I think ultimately that's why this system is going to try to move sort of west-northwest, okay? That's what it's going to try to do. And I think it will successfully. It's going to feel some sort of weakness in between the more stronger portions of the ridge here. So, and this is because of an upper trough that's actually what's bringing all the unsettled weather right now across the eastern U.S. It's funny how everything connects, right? So this system feels that weakness right here, and that is why this tries to go poleward and really try to move north. It finds that weakness. So it's like, okay, I'm about to turn, I'm about to hit Hispaniola, but notice how the darker reds kind of build over the system. Bang, build over it right here. So stronger ridge influence, okay, allows this system to kind of go like this, to kind of abruptly begin to kind of go like this again, okay, or more so like this, okay, because that flow around the ridge is going to go like that, especially the stronger portion of the ridge, okay. So we get this back in motion. Notice how this goes from like a west-northwest movement to a due west now. It's filling that ridge. It looks like it tries to weaken one more time, but this thing is already cruising west. So this ridge builds right over the southeast, and there is no way this thing, even if it's a strong hurricane, is going to turn up against this very strong ridging across the southeast and the deep south. Okay, so this is why this ultimately continues to make its way east to west. Okay, it's flowing along this current right here. So this is moving like this. Now, as we continue to move forward here, Is this eventually going to try to find some sort of weakness? Well, you still got that burgundy color here indicating a strong ridge, but you notice that relaxes somewhat. A little bit of a crevice right here, a little bit of an opening, a little bit of a weakness. You see the orange showing up. It senses that weakness, and there it goes. It starts to try to inch back north again. But, you know, we just got to figure all that out. It's going to be a tough one to figure out. And, you know, I'm going to try to jump right back here and look at one last information. It doesn't look like they've repassed through the system yet. But let's see if we got a new update. Per the National Hurricane Center, we do not. Okay, so still 130 mile per hour storm. Just want to try to catch that. But, guys, I do want to mention we do have what is likely or what is forecast to become Tropical Storm Chris. We actually have tropical storm warnings up for the Mexico coastline on the Atlantic side, the Gulf of Mexico side. Let's see where it says S. This is actually forecast to become Tropical Storm Chris at the last second. That's why I kept mentioning 94L, because I thought it had a trick up its sleeve. And I was like, you know what, this thing's probably going to take the C name. And it's looking like it has about 6 to 12 more hours to do so. It's tucked into the Bay of Campeche. And this is a look at it right now as the sun is probably about to set on it. It has a nice cyclonic spin to it. I mean, it really does. I mean, this thing is spinning pretty good. The center of this thing is probably somewhere into here where I put that check mark. So this might upgrade to a tropical storm right at the last second. Might take a name. We'll see what happens. Either way, it's done for because it's going to move over the higher elevations of Mexico. And then we look way out here in the Atlantic. We still have our area of interest where the model guidance has really dropped off on now. Only a 70%, well, I think it's been a 70%, but it's maintained a 70% chance to develop over the next 7 days. This is Invest 96L. I don't think this is going to develop into a tropical storm over the next few days. And as you can tell, you know, Beryl's moving on out. We got to watch this wave. Over the next few days, it doesn't strengthen much. Look at this other wave trying to do something. And that's good news for the Lesser Antilles because, man, we did not need another system right behind Beryl. We already know what Beryl's about to do. It's about to do devastation on some of these islands. So I kind of thought this would happen too. I just did not really see two systems back to back like that. The Euro, what does it do? You know, same thing. It's a weakening trend, you know, just a weaker wave. But we'll continue to watch it, guys. That's all I got. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all. And y'all have a wonderful rest of your night. And stay safe tonight for my folks here in the Windward Islands. Praying for you folks. Love you guys. Hunker down. We'll all get through this together. God bless.